Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good evening, Greg. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Ash. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. You've been up to much?
Yeah. Lots. No. Just getting over COVID, working hard. How about you?
Yeah, not had COVID, but yeah, just working hard, working on some stuff that I'm going to announce very shortly on the live stream. So just while we
Yeah.
wait for people to pop on into watching the video, which should be live on our Facebook and stuff now. What have we got planned to talk about this evening, Greg?
So there has been a Loch Ness monster video sighting.
Always good.
That's just making its way around the press. So I thought we would have a look at that. Then continuing the theme, we've got a river monster to have a little look at.
Nice.
And see what people think about it. It's a video that has been online for a while, and I've seen it on many documentary type paranormal UFO like programs like Unexplained Files, whatever. So it'd be good to see what people think to that. Then, because what got me to that today was I was listening to a podcast whilst walking the dogs, and it was someone. Well, so on the round table that we did the other day with Frank, UFO thinker, Dave Smethurst, as well. We were talking about. I completely lost my train of thought there. We were talking about Colin Kelleher. So somebody that I spoke about and said I followed his stuff for such a long time.
Skinwalker stuff.
Skinwalker, and he was part of NIDS before Skinwalker. So he was taken on. He applied for this position with Bigelow for the National Institute of Discovery Science. They flew him out because he's like this prominent guy in his field. Robert Bigelow interviewed him face to face and offered him the job essentially at NIDS. So the National Institute of Discovery Science was like one of the first big private companies to investigate weird stuff through Bigelow. So Robert Bigelow, billionaire guy, is pumped more money into UFOs and paranormal research probably than anybody else.
Yeah.
He was part of the ORSAP program. So some of the funding for ORSAP went to Bigelow through his companies and through NIDS. So they done a lot of work. Bigelow went down to see the owners, the Shermans, who owned Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, and on the first visit there bought it. So then he sent NIDS in, and NIDS set up a full sort of scientific approach to the study of anomalous phenomena at Skinwalker. And if you read Hunt for the Skinwalker, it talks all about that. And the fact that they claim to have photographed and videoed things coming out of portals and mysterious cameras being cut, the wires being cut when there's two cameras facing each other, but nothing saw anything. So that was weird. I don't know what just happened to the camera there. That's on cue.
We just switched.
So NIDS has been. I came across the NIDS website as well, and they had lots of case studies on there. And they do lots of. They're sort of now defunct as an entity, public entity. But Colin Kelleher went on and done a lot of work with George Knapp. They wrote Hunt for Skinwalker. Colin Kelleher has also done a book called The Brain Trust. And it's about mad cow disease. Part of it is about mad cow disease and animal mutilations, and how it's really interesting. Just to sort of geek out while we get people online. I listened to many podcasts of Colin talking, and didn't even realize he was Irish. An Irish guy. His accent's very faint, but when you know he's Irish, when you listen to him talking, you can hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I only know one other person called Colm, and he's Irish.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't even think about it.
That makes sense, actually.
He's American, but he moved out to America and Bigelow, and he's been in America for decades. So he talks about animal mutilations, which is a subject that fascinates me. It just fascinates me. And talking about, you've got two schools of people. There's the animal mutilations by entities unknown, i.e. experiments being done by them, ETs, for want of a better description, on unknown phenomena. And then you've got mysterious black helicopters being seen at the site of cattle mutilations and around cattle mutilations. Now, his take on that is that the US government were trying to track BSE, which is bovine spongiform encephalitis, mad cow disease. Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well done. And I think I can't pronounce it. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is the human version of BSE. And it got into the food chain where cows were eating processed cows. So like eating their own species. And it caused a lot of brain issues, as you can probably imagine. And that was all outlawed. But it was a big thing in the 90s in the UK and across Europe, and they banned our meat from Europe and all sorts. And anyway, so he's saying that the CIA and government food agencies were using the animal mutilations by ET phenomena as a screen for them doing animal mutilations to study cattle being mutilated in the wild, to see how far the BSE was traveling through the food chain.
Right.
Because sheep were getting it, goats were getting it, cows were getting it, bulls were getting it. Everybody, all these different types of animals were getting a form of this brain disease. So his take on it was something I hadn't even thought about, that they were actively creating a black program to monitor BSE within the food chain by masquerading on the back of this weird anomalous phenomena that's happening, where cows were being taken and surgically dissected. So
interesting.
It's an interesting take on it. So yeah, that's what I've been looking at. Nid's Colm Kelleher, I was doing a search for him earlier, and then it come up about cryptids and all that kind of stuff, and then I came across the whole Nessie story and all sorts. So I've been down this weird rabbit hole. And it's a strange place. When you find something to get your teeth into, it's the place can be mental. Like the internet is a great place for going down rabbit holes. And Colm Kelleher has got his fingers in many things, along with George Knapp and the Weaponized podcast. I've been listening to that and listening to Duncan Trussell on the Weaponized podcast about spiritualism, and it's an insane place. The paranormal, the unexplained is a sorry, I've just fully just went out there, didn't I?
I completely forgot what we even started talking about.
No, what I was on yeah. So
Loch Ness monster. Somehow we got roundabout to
we did
the Loch
get
Ness
out.
monster from that.
Yeah. So I came across this story today about Loch Ness monster, and bam, here we are 10 minutes later, where Greg stopped talking about Colm Kelleher. But if you haven't researched Colm Kelleher, he's a fascinating character. He's on all the big podcasts. Joe Rogan's had him on. So yeah, a lot of work with George Knapp as well. They're good buddies.
Cool. So before we bring in a couple of guests that we've got,
let's go on.
Anyone wants to come join us, as always, just let us know we give you the link to join the StreamYard. Any comments, just any questions, whatever thoughts, just throw them at us. As always, just how we kick off with the Loch Ness Monster video first, and then we'll bring in our first guests. Let's see.
Have you got the link?
I do. There we go.
Right. So I saw this in the news today. So it'd be interesting to see what people's thoughts are. Loch Ness Monster, fascinating sort of creature. And here's the video.
So what I would say this picture's come from, well, this video has been caught by a guy that likes to sit and watch the webcams that cover Loch Ness. Probably a bit of a Loch Ness Monster hunter, I guess. So I guess you got to sort of kind of take with a bit of, is he looking for anything that could be Loch Ness, and just obviously claiming that it's like we see with ghosts and UFOs, anything that could slightly be something unusual. He's then sending it to the papers. But like I say, it's only a week old, this footage, 26th of March.
Yeah.
And there is something, let's go back to that one. I mean,
difficult.
Yeah, obviously it's not the best type of image, and it's obviously some disturbance of something in the water. Doesn't appear to be moving from the sort of few seconds that we've got to watch it for. I mean, yeah.
Like you say, somebody who sits there and watches it all the time, the chances are that they're going to actively see stuff that may be a standard ripple and think it's something slightly different.
I mean, how do you even really spot it from?
I've seen better versions of videos of strange stuff in Loch Ness, but because this was so new and it was reported today, I think it just piqued my interest that. Hey, Jolene.
Hey, Jolene. Hey, Neil. So we bring in our guests and see what they think about the Loch Ness Monster. Anyways, let's bring my fellow UFO identified alumni, Natalie. Hello, Nat.
Hello. How are we both?
Hello.
My first thought looking at it is it's very straight. And if that was Nessie or a whatever monster, it would not be quite so straight, I don't think. To me, that looks like a disturbance in the water, but nothing that's organic, because it's too straight to me.
There's not much going on really in the video.
No, it's as straight as an arrow, whatever's caused that ripple. Is it Nessie? I'm not convinced.
What is your sort of thoughts on Nessie, Nat? I don't think you've ever spoken.
I've written a bloody article on it, Ash.
Yes, you have. Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
I do read them.
You remember that well. I'm not convinced either way. I think there's a lot of the things that the pictures that have been out there over the years can be easily explained away as being different things. But in my article, my favorite thing that I took away from it is, you know, that very famous picture of like the hook shape, the Nessie neck, that was taken years and years ago. Well, part of the research that I did was around looking at the circuses that were around Scotland, going back years and years and years ago. And it was very common for the travelling circuses to take their elephants out into the lochs to bathe the animals.
No way. I can see where you're going with this.
And there was a picture that was taken of a said bathing elephant in Loch Ness, going back to Dick-Dock at the time of the travelling circuses, with exactly the same bent neck look that famous picture has. And actually, on my article on ufoidentifier.co.uk, I've put both pictures next to each other, and they are virtually identical.
Oh, wow.
So I think the pictures that are out there have other explanations that perhaps we should look into before jumping to a conclusion that it's a great big green plesiosaur, etc. But who knows? It's a very deep loch. You know, it is connected through other bands of water.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know? Did you know that every human on the planet could fit inside Loch Ness?
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know that.
That's how big it is.
Okay.
That's amazing.
8 billion people could fit in.
Wow.
Be quite cramped, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Bit wet as well, I bet.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
very wet.
So, just on that note, the guy that took the footage said that the length of the visible wake is in excess of 20 feet, and the creature responsible, again assuming it's a creature, must be very large underneath the water. Certainly too large for known animals or fish that live in the loch. Otters would never reach sizes of this magnitude, or seals. He also added, when I spotted the wake and the camera stopped rotating, to see the water breaking was exhilarating. The calm conditions and the clear evening colours of the surrounding landscape were picturesque. The only thing missing was the Loch Ness monster, and up she popped. But when the camera patterned back round again, the shape had seemingly disappeared.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a very straight piece of water.
Yeah.
And I think if a monster that had been living down there for a long, long time was under there making the water ripple that way, it wouldn't be so long and straight. I think it would be very graduated. But who knows? We don't know.
Yeah. So the water in the area of the sighting reaches 450 feet deep, according to this guy's estimates. And lo and behold, it's the third Nessie sighting that he's captured this year.
I think he does spend a lot of time in front of those cameras there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neil says he'd be happy to see an elephant in Loch Ness.
I would love to see that.
Sadly, Neil, it goes back to the turn of the century when travelling circuses were very popular, and I think the chances of us seeing an elephant bathing in Loch Ness are pretty slim these days. Sadly.
Cool. So let's bring in our other guest, regular to our panel roundtables. Let's get his thoughts. I can imagine what this might be, but let's bring in Power Mike.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for the great intro, Ash, you cheeky bastard. I'm going to shock you. I don't have any strong opinions on this for once. Just looks like something moving on water, but yeah. Don't know.
Yeah,
outside my remit.
Yeah, it's not great quality webcam footage, to be fair. So that makes it even harder to determine the origin of that ripple or whatever it is. But it does appear to be quite a calm loch. The reflections seem to be pretty straight and unaffected. So it's, who knows? Could be a log or something just floating down the river, I suppose, across the loch. Sorry.
It's interesting.
Very
You can see.
picturesque, though. Very picturesque.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It's interesting. You can actually see the water moving as well from like left to. This is the wrong way around, but left to right, almost as if it's like tracing a line across it.
Can
you see that? You not see that?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's going right to left, isn't it, the water?
I mean, it depends on which way around your webcam goes, but yeah, it looks left to right to me.
Yeah.
But it certainly looks like it's moving. But it also, like I think Nat mentioned before, it seems weird that it would break in such a straight line, as opposed to anything else being disturbed around that area.
That's a better picture of it, I suppose.
You can see, yeah, where it's sort of, yeah, you can sort of maybe see it a bit stronger where it's different to the water.
Mm.
You'll have to put your diving suit on, Ash, and go and have a look and see what you can find.
I love Loch Ness. It's such a beautiful place. Like, it's just a pain in the
I'd
arse
love
to
to
get
go. Yeah.
It is beautiful. I've been a number of times, but I never found Nessie, sadly. Only a green fluffy one in the tourist shop that I got stung for some extortionate amount to buy.
I mean, to be fair, this gent's watching the webcam every day and he's not seen it either, so I wouldn't feel too bad about not seeing it on the one time you go up there.
But I watched a documentary about Loch Ness, and they had some like sonars, and they had a string of boats across the loch where they were just moving across the loch and sort of sweeping it essentially. And there's one famous photograph from underneath the water, which appears to be some kind of weird, it's like squarish, diamond-shaped, tipped fin, or that's quite close to the camera because it's so murky. But that's the picture I've seen that's other than the one that Nat was describing, which appears to be an elephant trunk now. I thought that guy come out and said that he'd faked that and it was just a model on his deathbed.
Yeah, I think there are stories to say that is a fake thing as well.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know if any of you remember the sort of adult comic book Viz from years ago. I remember them doing like a spoof, like Sun newspaper thing where some big guy being like, I faked it all. And it was a picture of a dude stood there with like a golf club with the old like cover on the golf club as if he'd been in the lake, like just poking that up. And it was just like, God's sake.
Did you guys used to watch the Family Ness years ago? So
That rings a bell.
To me,
that intro music.
You should rock 'em, you should knock 'em, you should go to Timbuktu, but you'll never find a Nessie in the zoo.
Yeah, I remember that.
You could meet an anaconda and a giraffe or a kangaroo, but you'll never find a Nessie in the zoo. I sound a bit like a mad fan of it, but I grew up on it. So to me, if anything's living in Loch Ness, it's a bunch of those green monsters, and there's a little girl on the side who blows a thistle whistle, and out they pop, and they've all got mad Highland hats on and everything. In my world, that's what's going on underneath the surface of Loch Ness.
It's as plausible as everything else.
Says it in a cartoon. It's got to be fact.
It's funny because off air, me and Ash were talking about the fact that like we've got to we're interviewing somebody on Thursday. I won't spoil the subject, but I'm fascinated to find out more about it. And when you hear what it's about, I said to Ash, it's just as plausible that this is a thing than everything else we've spoken about in 2.5 years. Yeah. Angus and Elspeth.
I know
that's the name.
Yeah. Can you give us a little hint or taster as to what this conversation might be on Thursday? Because I'm intrigued now.
Oh,
they've gone very quiet.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's mainly about, obviously sometimes interviews don't happen, and then we sort of said something and it doesn't happen, or if that person doesn't want, I don't know. We'll tell you off air.
We'll tell you off air.
We'll tell you off air. But if it comes off, it'll be released on Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
And I'm fascinated to hear it. And I've not even taken part in the interview yet.
And I guess to hear the response as well, right? Of the listeners of the podcast next week.
Yeah. I'll tell you what.
I mean, if you guys are sat there going, "Oh, it's weird," when you're doing a paranormal podcast, it's pretty fucking weird, right? Is it David Icke?
For the benefit, no, I wish. For the benefit of the people on this stream, not the people watching, don't say a word.
Okay.
This is what it's about.
Yes. Wow.
Where am I supposed to look for that?
That's that raises more questions than what?
In God's name?
That's exactly
I've no
My-
words.
Mine was
From that
it's
illustrious
obviously-
Isle of Man.
it could be where me and Ash are chatting, obviously on Facebook Messenger all the time. I just put, "What the fuck?" That was it. It's like WTF.
Yeah, I have no words for that really. I will also wait to hear that.
Yeah.
The outcome of that.
I can't wait.
Not
bated
to make that too cryptic to anybody watching, but
But
yeah.
you'll enjoy it, hopefully.
Definitely. Right, let's move on to the other sea creature that we're going to
Yes.
show tonight.
So this one is, if you've watched Discovery Channel, Paranormal Files, Unexplained Top 100 Unexplained Videos of All Time, those kind of programs on like Blaze or wherever in the UK, you may have seen this video pop up. So this is a river creature in Alaska, and I can't remember the name that the locals have given it, but I've seen this video multiple times. I've got my thoughts on it, but I'll see what you guys think, and if anybody watching has got any thoughts on this video and what you think it is, let us know as well. So, in lieu of any kind
what
of
are they claiming it is?
audio, it's a river monster that is spotted on this river. And as you can see, it seems to be made up of multiple bits coming out of the water. I got my thoughts on what I think it is. But it's been on the Paranormal Files. It's been on all manner of TV program, and it's spotted in this similar part of the river, well, same part of the river all the time.
Looks quite a lot like a sturgeon. Which I think,
with ice on the top of it.
yeah, which I think may or may not be around that part of the world. There used to be a series, in fact, called River Monsters, where a guy would go and find humongous fish. And one of those was a sturgeon, which...
They're big buggers, they are.
They're humongous, aren't they? Giant, weird catfish sort of thing.
You can milk them
like,
for caviar.
It's good to know. What you are full of the info tonight with the BSE
caviar
stuff as
comes
well, right?
from yeah. Sorry, I went on a real rabbit hole talk about BSE and its medical name.
It's the brain fog, Greg. It's the brain fog from your COVID.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
Apparently, like, not to go down that rabbit hole again. Apparently, BSE can sort of like, you can have it and it can sort of lie dormant for 20 odd years before it just goes like that.
Really?
Yeah.
And kills you. Yeah. But unfortunately, Patsy's the expert to ask about BSE because she goes down a Wikipedia rabbit hole and terrifies herself just before bed. But she was telling me about it, and I was like, "Fucking what?" So people in the 90s who may have eaten infected meat, could have it, and it could just be dormant until one time when it just
big thing.
Yeah, I remember.
Especially, were you guys old enough?
I wasn't in this country.
90s.
I remember it.
I was growing up in Australia at the time, and I remember my grandma came to visit, and my parents being like, "Oh, we'll have to get her a steak dinner because they can't really have steak or beef at home." And it was like this massive thing.
Yeah, I remember for ages it was all over. It was like sad to see the animals. It was awful.
That's why all the farms and all the walk paths was all like closed. You couldn't like walk across any farms, or like the walkways were all shut off to the public. And
it was all mad. So literally,
I have a master's degree in dementia studies, and one of the modules that I did was on Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease. So
wow,
it's
fascinating. It's fascinating. You should check out the Colin Kelleher interviews that he does about mad cow disease. It's very interesting. Very interesting. So, right, my thoughts. Mick just put up, it looks like a massive barnacle encrusted sturgeon.
I thought it looked a bit like a catfish. Not sure what sturgeon looks like, but definitely got like a
Similar
big
type thing, I think.
catfish type face, like at the front of it.
There is
So-
a picture of the sturgeon in the chat, by the way, if you want to double check. I don't think viewers can see it, but for anyone on the panel.
I'm just going to.
I can bring that picture up.
Oh, that's a
nice
huge bugger.
Yeah.
That's big, isn't it? Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd say that's not a sturgeon, but that is obviously in the photo. But I don't think the videos. So my thoughts on the video is that it's like a log with some debris coming off the back of it. It's spotted in the same place. And if you look at it when the clip first starts, this front part of it, the big part of the front, looks like it rolls slightly. Look, just there, it's kind of just rolling a little bit, and it just looks like it's just caught up in the.
It does have a very organic movement about it, though.
And also the ripples of it are quite far away from where that centralized log is.
Yeah, but if you look, it's not actually moving. When they zoom in, it looks like it's moving, but it's the flow of the river that's moving and causing it. 'Cause it's sitting in the same place each time. So to me, it's something caught on the bottom. Personally, I'm not sure what they named it something as well, and I was trying to find the name of it. Alaska River.
I did just check as well. Sturgeons run, I think, they set up the east coast from Mexico to Alaska.
Okay.
Coastal waters from Ensenada, Mexico to Alaska. Yeah.
That is actually, that video is a government video as well, just to let you know. In Fairbanks, let's have a look. I'm just quickly scanning it. The Alaskan ice monster is called. It was a cousin of the Loch Ness monster, or maybe Nessie herself had slipped past immigration. Some people called it the chainer because it's where it is. Chainer chomper, a sea monster, a massive sturgeon, a zombie salmon, a wayward shark, a scabby whale, a pet alligator, an icy moose hide, an arthropod of unusual size, or a giant Arctic crocodile. It was also called a beaver gator. Whatever that was. It says if you looked closely, it had tentacles and gills or an armored tail.
Okay.
So
people see things they want to see in these things, don't they?
Experts at the Alaska Department of Fish and Game said it was nothing biological, just junk. It was frazzle, whatever that is. Frazzle ice stuck to a rope that is probably caught on a bridge pier. The natural phenomenon of frazzle ice occurs when bursts of cold, instead of forming a crust, the small and supercooled discs mix into flowing rivers and streams, giving the water a slushy appearance. There's ice, but no monster. When the area had warmed, the thing vanished along with the river ice and snow. So I think it
sounds like a cover-up to me. That
so maybe it went colder climates. It just went somewhere else.
It's not a downed weather balloon, is it?
It could be. It could be. On that note, just to cover off a weather balloon. So we've talked about this to death on the UFO roundtable as well. And I was listening to a podcast about balloon downing, and they were saying the reason that they didn't take it down over America, they didn't shoot the main one down, was because there was a high possibility that it was, say, Chinese or Russian or whatever, carrying biological weapons. So if they shot it and it dropped to the floor in any kind of inhabited area, COVID-23 could have happened, or worse, it could have been a natural or biological natural disaster type thing. So that hence why they let it fly over the US and then shot it down over the sea, just to prevent any kind of biological weapon being dispersed into the population, which is another take I hadn't really thought about. So
Interesting.
just on that slight tangent.
I don't know where that came from.
Is his brain
What about
fogged?
balloons? My brain's a crazy place.
Oh, I
Many,
know.
many ideas. Ash will testify to that. We talk for hours and hours.
Yeah. We've got another guest in the green room. I shall
Oh,
bring
wow.
in Victor S. Johnson,
Yes.
a recent guest on
Reverend
the
Vic.
podcast.
Victor. Yeah. Hello.
Hey Ash, hey Greg, hey Nat, Mike,
Hi.
Paramike.
Hey, man.
How we doing?
Doing all right.
Keep saying that name, buddy.
Paramike or Mike or okay.
Yeah, Paramount, give me some free advertising. Yeah.
That's his
Very much,
branding.
you got it.
That's which one's branding.
Who is Brandon?
No. Branding.
Oh, branding. Okay.
It's our English accent.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. To elaborate on that Chinese balloon,
Yeah,
That-
go on.
that would be a perfect excuse from our government. Except, like, since that balloon's been shot down, we've had like 25 train crashes all over the United States in various
know.
areas, and a lot of stuff has leaked into our water anyway. So, I mean, I don't grain of salt with that, but
Yeah.
People
yeah.
seem to think that the whole balloons or UFOs over the US was actually potentially a cover up for those train crashes in Ohio and stuff, right? And the fact that it was leaking toxic chemicals everywhere.
I
Yeah.
mean, weirdly, we see it happen and we don't do anything about it anyway. So, I mean, it could be whatever, but how is everyone? Not to bring everyone to a weird place.
Oh, we're in a weird place. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
worry. Yeah, all good. All good. Thanks
Yeah,
for
we're
joining
good.
us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me
We-
back on.
Pleasure. So we decided to do a bit of a live one today following this Loch Ness story that came out. I don't know if you've just seen the video that we played. What are your thoughts on Loch Ness Monster or river monsters, lake monsters in general? What do you think?
I saw the tail end kind of, and I'm to use American slang, I'm down for the river monsters. We actually
Cool.
have our own river monsters out here. They're just not as pronounced as the Great Scottish Loch, so to speak.
So what so we were just talking about an potential Alaskan one. What other river monsters do you guys have? What are they called out there?
Well, we have one close to me in Chesapeake, Virginia, in the Chesapeake Bay. Its nickname is Chessie, to go with the theme of the bay. And out in New Mexico, in the Roswell area, funny enough, and not to plug my book, but I talk about it in my book a little bit. I don't think anyone's ever plugged my book, so I've got to be the one to do it. There are
Absolutely do.
there's a giant turtle in the bottomless lakes. It's rumored. So, grain of salt. There's a lot of different sort of things. Yeah, there's Chessie right there up on the Wikipedia. That's cool.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get the virtual background to work, so
That's cool. Sort of talking about the UAP, sort of flipping between subjects. Neil says it's too quiet on the recovery of the shut down UAP because it was sort of big, massive media hype that I missed because I had no internet for a week, and then it just sort of disappeared, and then there's been nothing since. I mean, that's the case over here. Has that been the same over in the US as well, Victor?
the UAP. I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with them.
And the balloons,
The,
yeah.
the balloons being shut down.
Okay. We haven't had one since the one that made the worldwide coverage. I want to say there were a couple of balloons shot down in that time, and then there hasn't been anything on the mainstream that I know of.
It's weird, isn't it? It's super weird because they went online, the American government, and said during the press conferences that they were unidentified flying objects that have been shot down. Now, my take on it was, is this them like when we were going through COVID in the UK, the government would like leak a story or say, oh, we're looking at doing this in a couple of days' time, and they gauge the response of people and either roll out this new restriction or whatever. They're feeling out what was happening before they announced it officially, just to get people on board. Now I'm thinking, and it was something I'd pulled up before, was that they were specifically saying unidentified flying objects were being shot down by the US government, which in itself is a headline that would never have come up before 2017, I wouldn't have thought. But the reaction, I think, from the public was just like, huh? It's a balloon, isn't it?
No one batted
So people
an
were
eye.
actually talking it down, but nobody was picking up on the fact that it was an they were actually saying unidentified flying objects are being shot down over American soil by jet fighters. Because why would you, if they were, and they would know if these are recreational balloons, because people do send balloons up all the time for like promotional stuff, all that kind of thing. And you can put an iPhone in there for locating your phone when it the balloon when it drops, and they would know that. Why would you send up a jet fighter and fire a missile that costs like $500,000 into a balloon that probably costs like £100 to put up in the air? It just seems insane to me that this level of ferocity and aggression would be shown against some guy or some people on a university course just studying the weather. It just seems weird.
Right. Especially, how did the Chinese get a balloon across the ocean? Number one, a self-guided unmanned balloon. Now, maybe they launched it from inside the country, if that is the narrative they're going with. I didn't look into it too deeply, but I'll do you one better, Greg. In 1947, the term flying saucer was used by the Air Force in the newspaper. That would have been the Roswell crash.
Yes. Yeah. And then the next day they said it was a weather balloon.
Yes.
And they kind of did the same thing with the press conference this time, because there was a press conference where the guy went, we can't rule out the possibility of where he said UFOs are aliens or whatever. And then the next day there was another press conference where the congresswoman was basically making light of it and being like, do I think it's like aliens, like the movie E.T.? They're going to come down and we're going to touch the fingers? No. And it was like, again, they're making light of it and making it a big joke and being like, oh no, it couldn't possibly be aliens or a UAP or whatever. And it's just like, it's the same thing over and over again. Like they sort of try and admit to it a little bit, but then just make a big joke out of it and be like, oh no, that'll go away now we've made it seem crazy or whatever.
What are your thoughts, Ash? UFO expert. And you, Nat, UFO expert.
I'm of the same view as you, really, Greg. I'm a bit baffled by the whole way it's spun out and the lack of anyone going, oh, there's something, big going on here. Everyone was like, oh, yeah, we're shooting down UFOs. Oh, no great big deal. And I still can't get my head around that. It's weird.
It's mad. It is mad. And there were like loads of different object shapes. There was like apparently like a hexagonal shaped one. There was a silver tic tac shaped one.
There's a car shaped one.
What? So not just round balloons. There was multiple different shapes.
So they say.
So they say.
They don't release any footage, videos, images.
Because they only had to release the footage of the one that they did because an amateur had filmed it from the ground. So they had to kind of, I wonder what was going on, that they were like, shit, somebody has filmed this balloon up there. How are we going to spin this? And they're like, let's go down the UFO route because people won't believe it. Boom. I don't know. And then Ash was on holiday for that whole week with no internet. And by the time he got back, it ended.
I know. I remember getting the text from him when he got home going, has the world ended since I've been away? What's all this? Have we been invaded?
The moral of the story is that essentially Ash needs to take more holidays if that's what happens when he goes on them, right?
You know, pay for me. I don't mind. I go away.
So Victor,
Yeah, right.
Ash went on a cruise for a week with his family and his
With no
partner,
internet.
and with no internet on the boat. So he had no mobile data, no internet or anything for a whole week. And that week was when all the balloon issue came and went. So by the time he got back, it'd all been done and dusted.
Just like UFO shot down. I was like, what the fuck?
So
I just wanted to bring up, sort of flitting back between subjects of Chessie.
yes,
I found this picture on Wikipedia. I've got to show it. I love it. Just look at this picture of it.
I know exactly which one you're going to pull out.
That seems like Maryland. Yeah, that seems about right.
It's very glamorous
pretty,
looking.
very pretty. Yeah.
It's got bling, hasn't it?
It's like a glitter ball.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. That's like the first picture that comes up is like this one. It's like,
It's getting so bad. Chessie has to do birthday parties for kids to make ends meet. That's amazing.
probably not quite as popular as Nessie that brings in all the money
Yeah,
for Scotland.
True. So Victor, what is your favourite? So staying on the like cryptid and all that kind of front, what is your most plausible like character? I don't know what you would like. So you've got like the Mothman, you've got Skunk Ape in Florida, you've got Chessie and Nessie and all those kind of things. What would be the one that seems most credible to you?
Credible? Probably Bigfoot.
Yeah.
My favorite is going to be the Jersey Devil, but I'm biased. But definitely Bigfoot would be the most credible to me, or even, the one that's the goat eater from Mexican lore, but I can't remember it now.
Chupacabra.
Yeah. Why did my brain freeze? Yep. Chupacabra would be plausible.
Okay. Mike, what about you?
I don't know. This is my area of opinionation. So,
All right, you can have a
probably-
you can have a thought on it.
probably I would agree that Bigfoot's probably the most viable, especially when you start looking into all the interdimensional theory with it. I don't necessarily have a favorite, but I've definitely told you this story before, Greg, where the first episode, or one of the first episodes of Pursuit, was on the Yowie, which is like an
Yes.
Australian Bigfoot sort of thing.
Yes.
And
Our very first episode.
was the
Our very
first,
first
and
episode, yeah.
And I thought nothing of it until not long before we went to Minster Lovell, me and Greg, when I Googled Yowie, and can definitely remember like immediately the image of like this sort of sketchy black hair and then bright red eyes. I can remember seeing it when I was a kid out there. And
Okay.
and we'd have Aboriginal people come into school and tell us stories about like Dreamtime and the Rainbow Serpent and stuff like that. And I definitely remember the picture of the Yowie because it freaked the fuck out of me as a kid. And then years later, not thought about it. You guys mentioned it in an episode, and then I went, "Oh, I wonder what that was," and was Googling about Aboriginal art and their like philosophy on life, and it popped up, and I was like, "Fucking hell!"
Yeah.
Childhood trauma unlocked, sort of thing.
I just about remember it, Neil.
I remember editing it for about 2 weeks. It was
It
very,
took
very.
about 2 weeks to record. It really did.
At no point,
the power microphones.
at no point, you guys were like, "Do we really want to do a podcast?"
It seemed like a lot of hard work back then as well, Ash, didn't it?
We streamlined it a little bit nowadays.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have. So I've got relatives on my ex's side, and they live in Perth, or just outside Perth, Joondalup.
Big up, Perth.
And big up Perth. And I was chatting. I sent him a message saying, "Oh, we've just done an episode of this new podcast thing that me and my friend are doing. It's about Yowie." And the I say young lad, he's not young anymore, but he wrote back to me and said, "I thought it was a chocolate bar," and it is a chocolate bar. in Australia. He said, I didn't realise it was a real thing. I thought it was a brand of chocolate bar.
Fair enough.
So there we go. About you then, Nat, what do you think? What's your...
I've got to give a big shout out to Mothman. I do love the Mothman and the Jersey Devil. Anything sort of flying wings, kind of bipedally thing with great big red eyes is up my street. But yeah, a Bigfoot as well, I think. Stroke the
Ash?
Yeti, stroke every other name under the sun that he's known by.
Yeah.
I do like Bigfoot. I mean, I've gone looking for Bigfoot in the UK. I still believe there's something to that. Let's not really get into that much here. But I do like the why is the name going out my head? Literally, I was about to say the word that's going out my head. Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins. That's the one. Kelly Hopkinsville Goblin.
Yeah.
That's kind of possibly ET related as well, rather than just cryptid.
You can go down the rabbit hole if you go looking at the Kentucky Goblins for sure.
Yeah, I just love that whole thing, and then on the back of that, you got like sort of the Hellier series, which sort of around the similar sort of thing as well. So I just love that.
I'm addicted
that one
to that.
Really.
Mm.
Hellier is amazing show.
It's not free on the streams anymore, I've noticed, because I went to watch it for the 9,000th time the other day, and it's no longer free on the platforms, and I was very disappointed.
It's free if you know where to find it.
Oh, maybe you need to send me a secret.
I'll hook you up, Nat.
I'm going to tell Greg on you. The other Greg. Greg Newkirk on you.
If we're doing cryptids, and since you're all across the pond, can I get your opinion on one that's specific to you? Spring-heeled Jack.
Natalie was talking about Spring-heeled Jack.
About to mention that as like a somewhat famous one.
Yeah, well, Spring-heeled Jack was last seen in my neck of the woods here in Liverpool in the UK. That was the last sighting of Spring-heeled Jack. It's a very interesting story because having been out and about in Liverpool and other major cities around the UK, you can meet quite very, very strange people that have had way too much to drink that almost look like the Spring-heeled Jack. Jumping around, jumping off buildings, and being an ex-A&E nurse as well, I've nursed many patients who feel that they're Spring-heeled Jack, and that they can jump from here to there and not suffer any consequences. But it's a very interesting tale. It's got lots of nuances to it as to who it could be. Was it a member of the royalty? Some people say. Did it really, or did the person that was seen really breathe blue? I think there's reports of him breathing blue smoke out of his mouth, etc., etc. But yeah, he was last seen in Liverpool. Sadly, I haven't seen him any time recently in Liverpool here. But it's certainly a very interesting story. Whether he's a cryptid type being, I'm not sure. I think he's more likely to be kind of a crazed human who likes jumping off buildings and frightening people, would be my take on it. Victor?
I may be wrong in saying this, but is Spring-heeled Jack the one that is that linked to like the footprints on rooftops in Devon?
Yes.
Okay.
He quite often left his footprints to be seen.
Cloven hooves in the snow on roofs in Devon, right? That just disappeared.
But there's a lot of the evidence out there that says that he was perhaps suffering from some sort of mental delusion or breakdown, and that was part of the whole act, really, to come across as something that wasn't what it appeared to be. So he would leave, hoof marks. He would, paint himself different colours, and he would there was something in the research that I did, and I forget what the chemical compounds were that he got together, but that's how he made his breath appear like he was breathing blue smoke by some sort of creating this chemical compound. But I'm not sure he's what you would class as a cryptid, in my opinion. However, read my very interesting article on UFO identifying.
God, I didn't realise this stream was going to be just everybody plugging their stuff.
Plug stream.
To be fair, I didn't include a link, so does it count as a plug?
Yeah, well, we will add a link for you, Victor. Don't worry, we will add a link.
Well, I bring up spring-heeled jack because, funny enough, in 1905, Philadelphia had a spring-heeled jack attack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I decided to make the connection. And we do acknowledge it after his reign of terror in London, so to speak. We kind of can't figure that one out, and it's such an obscure story. But I've got a link to a podcast that seemed to reference it, but I don't know. I didn't check it, but it is a story I had to tell when I was a Philadelphia tour guide.
Cool.
There's that.
So Victor, for people who haven't caught the episode, is still at Gettysburg, aren't you?
What's that?
So you do a lot of the tour guides and walking tours of Gettysburg.
Yes.
And like the history of Gettysburg.
Yes, I do that now. Yep.
So got fascinating wealth of history about Gettysburg. We had a great chat as well. Check out our podcast episode from a few weeks ago.
You may have answered this in the episode, Victor. I can't remember because it was a couple of weeks ago. Have you had any sort of weird paranormal experiences while out at Gettysburg?
Yeah, all the time. The most recent one, I led a tour, and we got results on the spirit box. And I always love when like new ghost hunters kind of show up and they just bought an SB7 and I kind of show them how to use it. But stuff like that doesn't really faze me anymore. They'll still get dusty orb pictures, and I'll say, yeah, man, great ghost. That'll be $10 if you're going to leave a gratuity. But mainly in the Jenny Wade house, I had a sensory haunting. Jenny Wade was the only civilian casualty of the Battle of Gettysburg. She was shot in her home while baking bread, well, in her sister's home. And she died instantly. But the smell of baking bread, I smelled that the first time I walked in there. The stove hasn't been used in over 100 years, to my knowledge. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's a lovely smell as well, isn't it? Baking bread.
It is, yeah.
I'd never actually smelled it before. I was like, who's making a pizza? And then I had to connect the dots because I had been around pizza dough when it baked, and I just sort of put it together and I'm like, wait, that's bread. So.
Yeah, it's nothing quite like baking bread. It's lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Do you remember when, this isn't paranormal, do you remember when bread makers were all the rage in the UK and every fucker had one and it was like, I've just baked my own loaf. It's taken me 6 hours. And it's like, really? 6 hours for a tiny bit of bread?
So shortly, if you a friend of mine on Facebook, my Facebook memory will be coming up from 3 years ago, which was the start of lockdown for anybody that hasn't been on the planet for the last few years. And I done videos of me baking bread, sped up versions of it rising. That's like just throwing it out there.
What a great segue that was.
Yeah, it was.
Loves it.
So on the Bigfoot front, Bigfoot is also my favorite as well. I think it's an enduring like story that comes up all the time across all the continents in various different forms. You've got the Yeti, the abominable snowman, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, skunk ape in Florida. Although
reports in places like the mountains of Afghanistan as well, which is one that doesn't really get heard of, right?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. We've spoken to many people who have been out hunting Bigfoot, who have other paranormal experiences at the same time. There appears to be a UFO link to Bigfoot. One of the friends of the show, along with you guys, is Tyler and Chris from Dockside Media, who done a Gettysburg, Ghost of Gettysburg documentary, but they also done one around Bigfoot. And they interviewed a lady called Sue, and she claims that the Bigfoots are like guardians of the earth, essentially, and that they'll communicate telepathically with people. and that they're essentially guardians, which the portal thing sort of fits in nicely with Guardians of the Earth, and they're sort of stepping in and watching over us and scaring people where needed and whatnot. But I think Bigfoot for me is one of those. It's just one of those things, isn't it? It's just an enduring story that pops up all the time. There's videos, there's dodgy photos, and if you're on some of the Bigfoot groups on Facebook, it's, wow. Let's just talk about, like some of the paranormal groups, there's a bunch of shit being put up claiming to be pixelated photos of Bigfoot, and I'm like, what? I don't even know what the... So it's so blurred and zoomed in that there's pixelated pixelated video. It's awful. It's awful. Nice of you to join us, Victor.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ash. See you later, Pair Mike and Nat.
Yeah, nice to meet you soon.
Speak to you soon. He's gone just like that. Boom.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. Boom.
So, yeah, it's just one of those enjoyable ones. And you've got absolute believers in Bigfoot. Absolute believers. Like
President Putin believes in Yeti. He's seen it, apparently.
I've seen him riding a bloody bear or something like that. So who knows? Who knows? But it's we've spoken to people on the show about there's been experiences like the Yeti, the Yowie, all the continents have got their own kind of version. We've got the Wild Man in the UK, for example, and one of the guests, Ben, he goes out camping, wildlife camping, in places that have been hotspots for the Wild Man. Big shout out to Ben Walgate, 401 Files. But yeah, it's just a fascinating subject. The whole paranormal thing's a fascinating subject, and it's something I could talk about for days. I think I consume podcasts around paranormal and unexplained, and all psychedelics is a new thing I'm going down a rabbit hole with. And psilocybin.
Would you ever?
Yes, I
would. Would you ever ayahuasca? Yeah.
Yep, I'd love all of that. So DMT,
I'm pretty vehemently anti-drug.
I would go with that.
I'm pretty vehemently I'm pretty vehemently anti-drug, but ayahuasca DMT is the one that I'm a bit like. That'll be an experience.
Yeah, they've been using it for thousands of years. They've been using it for thousands of years to channel spirits,
ancestors.
Oxford University are doing a study on post-traumatic stress disorder using DMT and psilocybin, where the average trip of, say, like DMT, etc., is about 6 minutes. So it's quite a small one. And what they're doing is Oxford University are giving people a level of DMT to a certain level to keep them in that state for hours. And it's allowing people...
Really?
Yeah, it's been on the news and everything in the last few weeks.
Okay.
See, there was a thing on Netflix a while back where Sue Perkins went to South America somewhere, and she tried ayahuasca or DMT, and she was like, she took it, threw up for about 5 or 6 hours, and then had her trip, and she was like, when she came out of it, it almost seemed like it was life affirming for her. And it was all about like her coming to terms with the fact that she'll never actually become a mother.
Wow.
Sort of thing. And it was like apparently all about that. And she was like, one of her ancestors spoke to her and this and the other. I can't remember what she said exactly, but that was like, you could see that she'd come out of it and she was like, yeah, that was fucking mental. Want a better term.
people who take DMT, which is a naturally occurring substance in the human body as well, all experience the same entities in their trips. So everybody around the world all has a very similar experience whether or not they've looked into DMT before, and it's some kind of weird parallel universe that you go into, and these entities are the same for everybody, and they all are like this higher consciousness.
You've heard the sorry to mention the name again. You've heard the Alex Jones thing, right? Where he said that a bunch of people went to Southern America. I want to say maybe New Mexico or something.
Yeah,
like
Mexico is probably the place for it.
Like 40 odd people took ayahuasca or some sort of DMT inducing drug and all started hallucinating, but he was like, they all hallucinated the same thing. And he's like, if multiple people are seeing it, it's not hallucination, right? It's something that they're all tapping into. And he was like, weird beings coming out of the forest and communicating with them telepathically. And he was just like, yeah, 40 odd people.
And that ticks some of the boxes of ancient aliens, like these higher powers coming and influencing older civilizations.
The clockwork elves, sorry to interrupt, the clockwork elves are the ones that come up again and again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much more than that, but they call them the clockwork elves, and they're like a weird race of clockwork elves that seem to come up again and again for people on DMT.
Yeah. So, yeah, sorry, Nat. I know you're probably anti that, but it's an interesting thing. It is interesting how...
You might just add a little disclaimer there somewhere that we're not advocating drug use.
No.
Okay. You can't buy it legally in the UK anyway.
Let's not get sued.
No. So we aren't. But
you're not gonna get sued from the discussion of it.
No.
It's not like we're all here.
I'm sorry, I'm just the most anti-drug person you could wish to meet. It's the nurse in me, having looked after many patients who I've seen in the most awful, critical ways that
I get it.
I don't
especially when it's people on like acid trips and stuff, right, where their hallucinations can do very scary shit to them, and it's like, fucking how.
So don't do drugs, kids.
No.
Stay in school.
Drugs are bad.
Stay in school. Like Zamo said back in the 80s, just say no.
Indeed.
I will be in touch, Neil, about that dome.
So, moving on before we wrap up. We have an announcement. While Nat's here, we can kind of talk briefly about the announcement from UFO Identified.co.uk. So guys, bring your attention to the screen. So you can just listen with your ears. Look at the screen right now.
I can't believe we've got round to this time of year to make an announcement again. It only seems like 5 minutes ago we were discussing it last October.
It was. So UFO Identified Minicon 2023 will be taking place on Sunday, the 15th of October at the Stanley House Function Rooms in Aldershot, which, if you came last year, is the same venue as last year.
That was a cool place, that was.
Beautiful Masonic Lodge, massive room. And this time we've got the whole place to ourselves.
Including the car park.
Including the car park. So that's the official date locked in, and the first announcement and of our speakers and tickets, early bird ticket sales will go on sale on Wednesday, the 5th of April, tomorrow, if you listen to this on the podcast. So
yeah,
very exciting.
Get your tickets early because they sold out last year very, very quickly, especially those VIP tickets, which you get.
Yeah, they flew out.
And
get a t-shirt, front row seats in.
Yeah.
Come and meet me. I'll be going.
Yeah.
Come and meet Greg, so we can drag Mike up as well.
Yeah. Road trip. Mike.
It depends if there's a trip to my haunted hotel tax on, boys. Because it's kind of that neck of the woods, isn't it?
It is.
I'll do that with you.
Yeah. Go and meet Danny if he's there.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. We'll sort that.
Make sure I can come. Never mind, boys and girls.
All right, Jesus.
Definitely. But the mini con, just taking it back to that, yeah, last year's was amazing. I absolutely loved it, and it was great to meet loads of people that we've spoken to or chatted to online, and everybody was of the same mindset. It was great, just great to meet a lot of people who, in one room, were all fascinated by the same topic.
Yeah.
And your guys' chat was great, right the way through the panel, the questions and answers with the panel, all the way through to Ryan at the end, which I know captivated everybody as well. So the whole day was fantastic, I must say.
Yeah,
I'd never been to anything like that before, so that was really cool. Plus, I was
It's
flogging
not-
t-shirts there. Big shout!
yeah, it's not a dry and dusty old conference, it's
No.
a really interactive,
Yeah,
great
it was.
day full of talking with like-minded people, and there's a bit of light-hearted humor in there. Like last year we had the competition for who could make the greatest tinfoil hat, and we had people who were very, very committed to making those really cool tinfoil hats. In fact, the guy who won made one that had an actual UFO that spun round on top of his. So yeah, it's light-hearted in its humor as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day. I've got some surprises coming. Going to be, I won't say too much, but yeah, it's going to be as good or better than last year.
Sorry to interrupt, but you might have just seen me looking across the side there. Literally, I'm freaking out right now.
Ooh, something's happening.
Because out of the corner of my eye, I could see a light was just to my. No, you can't see it.
Yeah, your background's going to kill it.
But the door to the room I'm in is shut, and I could see a light, and I thought it was just something, the light just bouncing off the door, but it was actually moving, so it couldn't have been the light just bouncing off the door because I'm sat still, and I've been for the last hour. Yeah, so that's a bit. Oh, I'll have a look at that after the stream. I've really got goosebumps. Just throwing it out there.
On that note, and sorry to derail the UFO identified conversation, we should definitely do a live or whatever sometime soonish, where we do a live Estes method.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Let's do it. The next live we'll do it because we've got Liverpool, we've got Manchester, we've got Swindon.
What's this fucking
Whitney?
Is this fucking Eurovision or something?
It is. Tonight, Matthew.
Hello
I'm
from
going
Liverpool. But yeah, like,
can you hear me, Swindon?
Yeah. North versus South, didn't it?
Yeah.
But like,
yeah, we'll win.
You guys have got spirit boxes. I've got a spirit box, so we can just run maybe multiple or whatever. Like, we'll figure it out. But
let's do it.
Cool. So we've got that to look forward to as well.
So where can we buy the tickets from?
So they'll be on sale from Wednesday, the 5th of April at ufoidentified.co.uk.
Yep.
Early bird
How
tickets
much?
will be
How
on
much?
sale. Now you're testing me. I got it written down here.
$59.99.
All the costs have gone up again, so we had to do a slight
£3.64.
Still very reasonable.
And especially compared to other conferences that aren't as good as ours. I will not even going to be biased by saying that. Like, literally, ours is like literally better. So tickets start at £20 for the full day. And that would include.
To be fair, that is well worth it for the
incredibly reasonable comparative to some of the prices of conferences I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the content that was at last year's was amazing. It was. So, and everybody was so nice. Everybody was so friendly. So big shout out to you guys because that was testament to. And I heard nothing but good things from people who were there. So
all the feedback we've had has always been really, really good. Like,
quick question before we wrap up: is it entirely UFO, or is there chances of a little bit of paranormal creeping in?
So we have discussed this. We were planning on doing a 2-day event, and doing a bit of both. Unfortunately, due to various issues and spending 4 months trying to get a venue secured, literally stressing for months trying to get goes into it. So this year, probably not. However, we are planning. So, but now this is all finalised, we are already starting to plan 2024, and it's going to be lots more different things involved. So let's just say that for now.
Get me involved. I'll do a bit of platform mediumship for you, mate. Be like, oh, there's a David in the room.
But yeah,
Sorry,
sorry. The last 2 years did sell out. Early bird tickets sold out fast. The VIP tickets sold out fast. And we've always been blown away by the support and by the way it's been received. So we never ever expected that we'd even sell like 10 tickets when we first did it a couple of years ago.
I know.
No idea what's gonna happen. But yeah, I've been blown away by the support. So yeah, get your tickets. We always had people messaging me in the weeks before, like, any tickets left? I'm like,
the reserve.
Advertising this for 6 months. Like, just we always say get your tickets early if you want them. And that's just not trying to sell tickets. That is because we sell out.
And we will have, as Greg was saying, we have the stall holders as well available for people to mingle around with. So that covers paranormally things as well as UFO-y things. So we've got people doing book signings, selling merchandise. We normally have our little stall going as well, where we sell bits and bobs, and we will be doing some food and drink this year as well, for people. So
awesome.
The hard work starts now with the tearing the hair out.
And just to let you know, just plugging us now, as you guys have been plugging away. So this year we'll be able to take card payments on our store for t-shirts. We sold out of all the t-shirts that I took with us last time. And
your t-shirts were ace. Really,
I'll bring up
really
loads more of them as well.
Yeah.
And also, bugger it, depending on how I'm feeling, I might come up and man the store with Greg.
Yeah, why not? Come and join the fun. It was a really good day.
Mike, it's a very old building with a lot of vibes.
If I can work in an investigation around there or around that area, I'll definitely be up, because then I can just do some for the YouTube as well, right?
It's a proper Masonic lodge.
Yeah,
like,
it's got
actual Masonic
vibes.
lodge. Yeah, it's got weird shit all over the walls and everything. Yeah. It's a cool place. What? Christ. You'll be wanting a lift up there as well.
I'll probably give you a lift, to be honest, mate. But yeah.
Cool.
So,
right, Mike, where can everybody find you?
Linktree/Paramike, primarily the YouTube. Get on there. Give me some views, give me some subs.
Yep.
Try to make my channel better. So hopefully you enjoy it.
Definitely. Nat?
Yeah, well, you can find me in lots of places at the moment, but round and about, anything UFOidentified.co.uk and all of our social media platforms. We've been hitting up Liverpool Community Radio this last week. So we've got a link on our Facebook and different places to take you to that very interesting couple of hours we spent on the community radio. We've also got Manchester's meetup is when, Ash?
Tomorrow or today if you're listening on the podcast.
Okay. And Liverpool's next UFO Identified meetup is the 4th of May. All of the details are on our social media and website. So I'm always doing something paranormal / UFO linked somewhere.
Cool.
So yeah, check us out on the website.
Awesome.
Nice one.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, so thanks to Mike, Nat, and Victor for coming along and chatting to us. Cheers, Greg, as always. And thanks, everyone, in the comments for chatting and watching. And we shall see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye, guys.